welcome to the Q&A with Paweł Ziemilski, the director of In Touch. Thank you for sharing your work with us, Paweł. It's a really interesting work. So where did you get the idea for this project?
Well, this project started a long time ago. I was still in my film school, and I made a short film while still being in school, in this region of Poland called Mazury. It's the northeast part of Poland, and I made a very short film about a very tiny village there, where I don't know, about 100 people live. And while doing this film, from time to time, I heard people just talking about some relatives that are living in Iceland. And it made me curious, because I never heard of any Polish person living in Iceland. I didn't know anyone who lived in Iceland. And there I had, in a tiny village somewhere, somehow it's at the end of the world, for me at least, so many people talking about Iceland. And I got more interested, and so I discovered this bigger village, almost I would say a town, called Stare Juchy, that turned out to be kind of the center of a quite large emigration movement from Poland to Iceland. But I never thought of actually making a film about it. I just thought it's a funny story, interesting story, that from a town of 1,000 people, 400 people left and lived in Iceland. And a few months later, I went to a film festival, and I found I met a friend there from Iceland who also studied in the Polish film school. And he was kind of famous because he was the only Icelander actually studying directing in the school. And I just told him that it's a funny story. Listen, I've just found this village that so many people are from this village are living in Iceland. And he was actually this Heikur, this friend of mine. He called me a few weeks later and told me, let's make a film about it, and I will produce it, and you will direct it. And that's how we started. But at the beginning, we thought it's going to be a film about emigration, just about emigration, just about how when you hear about Iceland, at least in Poland, when you hear the word Iceland, it sounds exotic. Everything there sounds exotic. It's unique, the landscape, the way the people live. It's far away from anything else. It just sounds interesting to see how people that you know, or the people from your kind of social group or nation, from your country, how they manage to live in a place that is so different. And at first I thought this is going to be the main focus of the film. Mm-hmm. But after actually being there a few times, I discovered that it's that I'm much more interested in. I'm looking for something else, because the things that were the most important for this immigration, for a film, the most interesting things for a film already happened. They happened 20, 30 years ago, when the first people from this region, from this village, moved to Iceland. I think this was very interesting to see and follow that. But now the newcomers, they come there almost as, for a ready situation. It's not so, I would say, for a film, you're always looking for something that is unique, that you can't imagine somehow, that something that is just new for you. And for me, that wasn't new already when I went there. I thought that this immigration is kind of the same as Poles living in different countries like Ireland. I don't think it differs so much as a group, this immigration. So I looked for something else, and then I discovered that what interests me most is there's still a bond between this village and their relatives that live in Iceland. And this bond is mainly preserved on Skype calls. So every day, people from this village Skype their relatives in Iceland. And this was already some kind of a unique image for me, this kind of virtual village that is there. This was the point, but it was very late in this project that I discovered that, after maybe 3 or 4 years of already working on a different film somehow, but on a film that didn't catch my heart. So that's why I kind of moved to a different. So this film has a now different form than in the beginning.
So the subject itself, it revealed to you during the production. Basically.
I think that happens quite a lot. That you start with you have a starting point so there's a topic in the beginning, but then when you kind of enter deeply into the subject, you discover that maybe something else in this is more important for you.
Of course, sure. So when and why did you decide to present it in such a unique way? I mean, the presentations, and the projections.
Mm-hmm. Very late. That was very late already, because first so I knew that this. So as I told you, I knew that I wanted somehow to work on this bond, on this trying to be together, although being far away from each other. So I was looking for some kind of I would say, need of these people. What do they need? What can I give them? Because I think when I'm thinking of why I do films, I don't just do them because to tell great stories. I kind of believe that it can change something, at least for a moment. So also change while filming, not only change while for viewers, but also maybe for protagonists. It can change something in a positive way. So I was always looking for this answer to this question: why am I there? Why to do this film? And then after listening to a lot of these Skype conversations, because people allowed me to listen to their private conversations, they recorded them and gave me the recordings. I discovered that this Skype conversations, they kind of keep people together, but they're never enough. They're never. Now we know it after this pandemic that it's that these communicators, they're somehow good for us, but they will never replace real contact with each other, and the real conversation, real being there physically in one space. So I felt from the beginning that although people are saying that this Skype gives them is kind of a miraculous, amazing discovery, and that keeps them together on a declaration level, that happened. But I had a feeling that it's not enough for them, that they're missing something, and the more they talk with each other, years are passing by, and they're still talking to each other, mostly on Skype, not physically together, and that there is a bigger need for something else. So I said, okay, so how about we, in a film way, we bring these people back together, we put them back into one space. So, and then I started to look for the right form to put them back into one space. So I thought of green screens, of putting one side of this group on the green screen and projecting it, and putting and placing them in the image of the other ones. I thought of VR as also as an answer, different kind of collages, and then I discovered this projections a bit by accident. Just my cinematographer just brought me a photo album, old photo album of Japanese photo album of families, just family pictures. And there was one picture where there was a family standing all together, and half of this family was physically there, and the other half of the family was projected just on a still photo projection. next to them, but they were their ancestors. Actually, they were like their grandparents in the same age as the other ones.
Oh.
And I thought, wow, this is nice. This they you can see that that something is wrong, that it's not, that there is a projection, but if you just close your eyes just a little bit, you kind of becomes more foggy. Then you kind of feel that it's the same. They're there together. For this 1 second, you have this feeling that it's, and this 1 second is enough for me to make it as a form for a film. So this projections was an answer to the need that I felt that these people have to upgrade the Skype to a different level.
Yeah, that's a very interesting idea. And I was wondering, how did the people feel? Did they tell you that they feel like their relevance were like right in front of them, or was it helpful for them, this kind of presentation projection?
I mean, it's like everything else in life. For some people, it was very, very intense. And from the first projection, we tried to prepare the projections in this way so they didn't see it before going into the scene. So the protagonists were like, we prepared it in their houses, but they didn't see the projections before entering the scene. And so for some of them, this was very strong kind of experience. But for others, it wasn't. It was for a very long time. It was just a technical kind of a technical situation, and in many and sometimes we just took one take, and that was enough. And for others, we did like 20 takes, because I have this kind of a philosophy that if people feel uncomfortable sometimes in situations where you put them in a different weird situation, sometimes it's good to work it out somehow with them, just to repeat it so many times that it becomes kind of blank. It becomes not important. In a way, you feel that it's not important. Like, there are cables there's a big projector there's a camera, there's a cinematographer, a sound guy, somebody else, a director, plenty of people and plenty of technology in your house, suddenly in your room. And now you're supposed to enter this situation and talk to your son projected not very clearly on a wall. Sometimes it's too much to just enter this emotionally into this situation. But if you do it 10 times or 15 times, it's you start to listen maybe to different things. You stop focusing on these cables and stuff like that. And there's always a moment where you have a connection with these projectors. I was always waiting for this moment where there's this connection. And sometimes it was the first take, sometimes it was 20. That's the way it worked.
I see. And speaking about technical part, what were the challenges in this kind of different setup of the scenes? Did you had to prepare like for a long time before, or how did it work for you and the cinematographer particularly?
It was quite challenging because you normally when you make a film and the form is kind of classical, you can you film something, you film someone and doing something, and then you go back home, you edit it, and if you're missing something, you can always go back and film a bit more. Or and here you couldn't do it because all these scenes were their projections. It took stages to do it. First, you had to go to Iceland. First, you had to go to this village to plan where you want to make the projections, more or less, just to kind of know what you're looking for, and you had to know more or less what the scenes were. So, and the scenes weren't based on my ideas. They were based on my knowledge of what these people were doing or they would like to do with themselves, with each other, if they would be physically together. So like a grandfather would like to play football with his grandson, because when the grandson was very small and he was still in this village, they used to play football,
Mm.
and so on and so on. And so I had to plan first where to make the projections. Then we went to Iceland, and we had to shoot these, film these people as the footage, just not as the footage to the film, but as the footage only for the projections. That also took a different way of framing. You have to, you don't frame it the same way as you frame in a film, because it has a different purpose. You know, a lot of the times the frames weren't very nice. It was supposed to be just very clear what these people are doing. So the way they dress, because for projections it was always good to have like a big contrast or things like that. So we always looked for spaces where there was, you know, you could clearly see the person, and a lot of this. So then we shot this material in Iceland to be projected in Poland, and then we went back to Poland to project it and actually film the real scenes, the scenes that were in the film. So in all, it took stages to do it. So if you made any errors, you had to do it all over.
Yeah.
So it wasn't very easy to reshoot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we just made very few things that we reshot or we changed. So most of the things had to be somehow planned, and that was challenging to plan it all before actually knowing totally how it's going to look like. Because when you make a regular film, you can always look at the frame, you can, you know, or the cinematographer can just look into the camera, and you can kind of sense if this is the film you're doing or not. And when you're just filming in Iceland, people living their life somehow, and you ask them to do stuff, but it's not yet a ready film, it's just a piece that you're going to use later in your film. It's much more hard for you to know if this is what you want to do, or are you in a fog.
Yeah, that must have been difficult, right? Because it's a completely different way of making the film, kind of from the end part of it, really.
It is, but it's fun.
Great. So you would do it again?
No, I would do something else, but
Sure. Okay.
I would say the nice part about it is that you don't know exactly what you're doing, and it's always and there's this risk that I like in filming. I like to make films about things that I cannot really imagine at the end how it's going to look like. That it's just it's a try. That I try something. I can miss the goal, but at least it's a try. It's not. I'm not in a stable, good position from the beginning, and that's always good for a film when you have a risk at stake.
So you like the unknown in the film. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's you. When you're looking, it's always better than knowing. And while doing a film. Okay, now I'm very smart. I can tell you a lot about this film. What is the idea? What is why to do this? Why to do that? But while doing this film, I wouldn't be able to do it. To tell you why am I doing stuff? I'm just doing.
So you were just following your gut, basically.
A bit, yeah, and also the gut of my friends as well, of the crew, because it's a process that is not only individual.
Of course, yeah. Well, I have one more question. Kind of, I don't know, personal maybe. Like, what was the most important part of the film? Like the most important story in it? Maybe the bit that like shocked you the most, or like you were influenced by it the most. What would be? What would it be?
There's the first projection. We made a lot of this footage. We came back to Poland with a lot of footage from Iceland, I mean, a lot. Most of it is in the film. It wasn't maybe so much if you count the length of this footage, but we had a lot of different scenes with different family members of different families, and we and in Poland we went back to Starajuchy, to this village, and we went to the first mother of a guy that we filmed in Iceland, and I picked one of these. I picked one of these. One of these videos to project. It was conversation with her son that I made as her. I was the person talking to the son in Iceland, and I was pretending I'm the mother somehow. Okay. So I was asking questions as the mother. I didn't know the mother at the time. Mm-hmm. I was just imagining what a mother would ask a son that is 20 years already emigrated 20 years ago, and she is in touch with him every day on Skype, but it's not the same as physically being together. So I was I made this conversation, and I was the person asking the questions, and then and we projected it for her in her kitchen, and after 20 seconds of this very foggy projection that we had on a window, I saw emotion in her, and I saw, and this was the discovery for me, that it works. That actually it works. These projections bring real emotions to these people that are somehow hidden when you listen to these Skype conversations. So this was the breaking point for me. This was that we are not missing the clue, the goal of this film. Somehow we are not missing the main point why we are doing this. And this was a big discovery for me. And from that moment, we didn't stop.
Perfect. Yeah.
The scene is in the film when he's telling her in the kitchen that he would like to go back, but he can't because of his family, of everything else that he already achieved there. That he's not gonna go back, and she knows it, and he knows it.
Well, it's a very interesting work, as I said, a beautiful film, and I'm glad to hear that it worked not only for the viewers but also for the main protagonists. So that's what films should be, I think. So thank you very much for your time, for your conversation. It was very nice to have you.
Thanks.
And thank you to the viewers for joining us for this conversation. I hope you enjoyed the Q&A. Thank you very much.